Hello friends, myself Dr. Ganesham Chavan. Welcome back in another session of Human Anatomy and Physiology. We are continuing cardiovascular system. This is the third lecture on cardiovascular system. Students, today I will highlight the topic cardiac cycle. We are having more discussion on cardiac cycle. What is cardiac cycle? How it prolongs? How much time it requires? How much blood and where that blood will can be circulated, by which way, that all the things we will cover in this lecture. Also there are certain another things that we need to be discussed in this lecture later on. Cardiac cycle. What is cardiac cycle? It is a cycle when the whole heartbeat continues. So that heartbeat continues by two ways, either by systole and either by diastole. So cardiac cycle is divided by two phases. Systole. What is systole? Is nothing but the contraction of your heart. Now what we are thinking here, we are concentrating here the systole of or the contraction of ventricles more and more constantly, and more importantly we are concentrating on the contraction and relaxation of ventricles especially. So here in systole, contraction phase, how the contraction phase occurs, that we will discuss both ventricles and simultaneously one by one how they occurs. And diastole, what is diastole? It is nothing but the relaxation, either a relaxation phase. Now when you are discussing cardiac cycle, we should also know some another terminologies, another things that which we should understand during cardiac cycle. That first is heart rate. What is heart rate? Heart rate is nothing but the rate at which heart pumps the blood, means how many beats requires in 1 minute. It is called heartbeats or heart rates, means how many pulse require or pulse is going to be counted or occurs in 1 minute. It is called pulse rate. So heart rate and pulse rate more or less both are same, both are having same values. Heart rate is having value near about from, it varies from 60 to 100, but in normal range it occurs from 70 to 75 in normal. But when you are having some work, some physical exertion or some stress, in that condition it will reach up to 100 also. That's why we are having both the terminology that you should know. These are the normal terminologies. One is tachycardia. What is tachycardia? When your heartbeat crosses 90 beats per minute, so that typical condition is called as tachycardia. And what is bradycardia? When your heart is at rest position, when it is not having too much work, so that typical condition is called as bradycardia. So it is a condition when our heartbeat reaches to 50 beats or more than that, 50 or more than that, that condition is called as bradycardia. So when you are at the resting position, it will reach to up to 50, and when you are in working position, it will reach up to 100 or 110. So it is a normal range. But what is the normal? Exact normal is from 70 to 75, and normally we are telling that 72 beats per minute is the normal value of your heart rate. But there is range, it can be varies. It is normal, it is not abnormal. When you are having an exercise, it will increase, so it is called tachycardia. It is a normal, not abnormal things. Now cardiac cycle we will discuss one by one. Now this is the first stage, when atrial systole begins. So atrial contraction forces a small amount of additional blood into the relaxed ventricle. Now this atrial contraction occurs for 0.1 second only, 0.1 second, and in this there is lots of pressure will come on your atria, and atria will do contraction, and due to which it leads into the atrial contraction. And during atrial contraction, the atrioventricular wall will open fastly, and it will start to fill the ventricles. Now here the atrial systole ends, means so whatever the pressure was, that pressure can be released from the atria. Now atrial diastole begins, means the atria will start to start to relax, and due to which what will happen? Now next stage is nothing but the, now this atrial systole which indicated into the ECG by P wave. So P wave indicate the atrial systole. Now whereas the ventricular systole can be indicated by the QRS complex, QRS, where if you see the ventricular systole, it will prolong for the 0.3 second, and also 0.3 second can be divided into two parts, 0.05 second and 0.25 second. Now 0.05 second requires to close the atrioventricular wall. These walls can be closed, shut, both right and left, so that can be closed, and also the similar walls are also closed. So for that time it requires 0.05 second. And the first phase, the ventricular contraction phase, AV walls close but does not create enough pressure to open the ventricular wall. And if you will see here, the whatever the ventricles are there, they has been filled, and due to the blood they are producing the pressure. It is called end diastolic pressure, and that end diastolic pressure leads into the blood. How much blood is there? Now there is 130 ml blood has been gathered into these ventricles, and it is called as diastolic. End diastolic pressure is equal to 130 ml. Try to recall, don't forget, okay? And it leads into the QRS complex. Now ventricular systole. Now in this position, the ventricles are going to be contract. Here you can see the contraction occurs. The conduction is going to be occupy into your bundle of His and Purkinje fiber, due to which the contraction of your ventricles occurs. Now here if you will see, now into the left ventricle there is the pressure of 120 mmHg, and whereas in aorta there is pressure of 80 mmHg. And if you will see in the right ventricle, the blood pressure is 25 to 30 mmHg, but whereas in the your pulmonary trunk the pressure is 20 mmHg. And as we know, what is the rule? The blood flows from the higher pressure to the lower pressure. That's why from this 120 mmHg it will flow toward the 80 mmHg, and due to which the flow of the blood due to the pressure. Try to understand this cycle, try to understand the volume also. Now here it is 130 ml volume, it is end diastolic pressure volume. What is that? End diastolic pressure. Now here the systole occurs, means the contraction occurs. Why contraction occurs? And try to understand there is difference between the blood pressure into right ventricle and left ventricle. In left ventricle there is 20 mmHg. That's why we are checking the blood pressure, it is 120 in case of our ventricles, left ventricle especially. So it is second phase as ventricular. Now this 120 mmHg pressure will enhance to open the seminal wall, the wall which opens seminal wall, and due to which the blood can enter into the aorta, and blood can enter from the right ventricle into your pulmonary trunk or pulmonary vein, artery. So here an accident pressure in the arteries, and the seminal walls open and blood is ejected, and due to this advanced pressure it will ejected into your aorta, and aorta carries that blood all over the body. Now here this is the QRS complex. Now here the ventricular diastole occurs. Ventricular diastole can be indicated by what? It can be indicated by the T wave, and here again the pressure can be released, and as the ventricles relax, the pressure in the ventricles drops, and blood flows back against cups of seminal walls and forces them closed blood flow into the relaxed atria. Now here if you will see, now it is diastole and it is systole. Now here you are discuss it is end diastolic pressure and this is the end systolic pressure here, end systolic. After the systole, what is the amount of blood remain into your ventricle? It is called end systolic pressure, and that is, what is that? It is 60 ml. How much here? It was 130 ml. Try to understand, don't forget, try to understand. So here it is, what is that? It is 60 ml. And what is stroke volume? Stroke volume is nothing but the amount of blood ejected per beat from your left ventricle toward the aorta. So whatever amount of blood has been ejected from your ventricles, it is called stroke volume. And what is stroke volume? Stroke volume is having its formula. It is equal to end diastolic pressure minus end systolic pressure of ventricles. Means 130 minus 60 is equal to 70. Means 70 ml is your stroke volume. Try to understand. Now here ventricular diastole. So ventricular diastole can be indicated by the T wave of your ECG, and all the chambers are relaxed and ventricles fill passively. And for this diastole, ventricular diastole, it requires 0.4 second. Again we will summarize: 0.1 second for atrial contraction and 0.3 second for atrial for the ventricular contraction, 0.3 second, 0.3, 0.1, 0.4, and 0.4 second for your ventricular relaxation. Try to understand. 0.4 plus 0.4, it is 0.8 second. So total 0.8 second required for your whole cardiac cycle. I hope you understood the concepts. So there are various terminologies, like here the isovolumetric contraction blood. Here it is called isovolumetric relaxation of volume of blood. So various volume of blood is there which is required for their transfer from one compartment to the another compartments. I hope you understood the quantity, after that which value, how much time, how much second, and after that which wave indicates which type of condition. So in this fashion, again we will summarize this is called P wave, QRX complex, and this is called T wave. Okay, here 130 ml, here it is 60 ml, stroke volume is 70 ml. So in this fashion we have discussed this cardiac cycle. Now heart sounds, they can be generated by the closing of valves. Two valves are there. If they are closing, they are developing the two different sounds. So two main sounds, sound 1 and sound 2, two main sounds occurs in our heart. First sound, it is called lup sound. It is longer than the second sound and it is larger than the second sound. It is a firm sound, lup. That sound occurs due to the closing of AV valve. Both the anteroventricular valve, if they are closing, mitral valve as well as the tricuspid valve, when they are closing, and why they are closing? They are closing just before, once the ventricles are filled, so they are closing after that. So that condition, that time is called as lup sound. And second sound is called dup sound. It is a smaller and it is a lesser than the first sound, and it occurs due to the closing of aortic valve or semilunar valve. Both the semilunar valve, if they are closing, so they indicates the dup sound. And when they are closing, they are closing just after the filling of our atria are filled, they are closed. And when they are open when the ventricles are filled, and due to the pressure the semilunar valves are open, and the blood is going to be transferred into the aorta, and after that they are closed. And again the atria will be filled. So in this fashion the open and closing of the both the walls, they are producing certain sounds. Now they indicates start and stop of the systole. Now they can be heard by the stethoscopes. Very minute sound is there, it can be heard with the help of stethoscope. When we are checking the blood pressure, at that time also with the help of stethoscope we can hear that sound, lub-dub sound. Some essential definitions that we should know, that first is heart dynamics. It is nothing but the movement and forces generated during cardiac contractions. When the heart when the blood flows in certain directions, in certain flow, it is called heart dynamic. Stroke volume, the amount of blood pumped in a single beat, means the amount of blood which can be ejected from the left ventricle in one beat. So that typical volume is nothing but the stroke volume. Try to understand. And what is the value? Its value is 70 ml. And cardiac output, what is the amount of blood pumped each minute? So what is cardiac output? So cardiac output is equal to stroke volume multiplied by beats. In one beat, how much amount of blood? It is 70 ml. And suppose if you are having 75 beats per minute, so total cardiac output will be 5 liter and 250 ml. Try to understand the formula. Cardiac output is equal to stroke volume multiplied by beats. So stroke volume is 70, beats is 75. So its calculation will be 5250, means 5 liter and 25 ml. So that was is nothing but the cardiac output. Okay, now next is blood pressure. What is blood pressure? It is nothing but the pressure exerted by the blood on the walls of the artery, especially. You can also tell on the walls of the blood pressure, on the wall of the blood vessel. So blood pressure is nothing but the pressure exerted by the blood on the walls of the arteries, and it can be measured by the instrument. It is called sphygmomanometer. And pressure is having two types. One is systolic blood pressure and another is diastolic blood pressure. So what is systolic? It is 120 mmHg is the systolic blood pressure. And what is diastolic? It is 80 mmHg is the diastolic blood pressure. And how we are measuring? We are wrapping that sphygmomanometer. That rubber can be wrapped over the hand on your arms, and pressure can be increased. And we are placing the stethoscope on your brachial artery, on your elbow, and we are measuring the sound. We are checking the sound. We are checking that lub-dub sound. If lub-dub sound will start, it indicates the diastolic volume. It is called 80 mmHg. And when it ends, it will be your systolic blood pressure. It is 120. Normal value is 120 by 80, so it will be 120. So up to that 120 we are getting that lub-dub sound, and after that the sound will be disappeared. That typical end point for your sphygmomanometer for checking your blood pressure. It is very easy to check blood pressure, not difficult task. Okay, whenever our college will open, I will show you how to check your blood pressure. Now we'll go to the next slide. Factors controlling cardiac output. Now blood volume reflexes, autonomic innervation, in which heart rate effects, stroke volume effects, and hormones. So there are the various factors which are controlling our cardiac output. What is our cardiac output? Normally it is 5 liters. It depends 5 liters to 5.5 liters. So it can be increased or decreased by the various terms. It is called blood volume reflexes. So blood volume reflexes can be engaged by stimulation by changes in the venous return, means how much blood coming from your various veins, inferior vena cava, superior vena cava, and coronary sinus. So that venous return, it indicated your blood volume reflexes. This VR is venous return is amount of blood entering into your heart, into your right atrium. Atrial reflex, speed up heart rate. So your atrial reflex always speed up your heart rate. and triggered by the stretching wall of the right atrium. And next is Frank-Starling principle. What is Frank-Starling principle? It is a principle when we are checking that whatever amount of blood ejected from our ventricles, that is equal to the amount of blood entering into your pulmonary trunk. So it is nothing but the Frank-Starling principles. So it increases ventricular output and triggered by the stretching wall of ventricles. So it is also one of the reflexes or one of the indications which controls your blood pressure. Now autonomic innervation, autonomic control of the heart. It is also very important way we are controlling the heart and their force of contraction. First, by parasympathetic innervation, it releases acetylcholine. Acetylcholine is the neurotransmitter which decreases your heart rate, which decreases your force of contraction. Try to understand. And also I will discuss one thing, which receptor is involved into your heart. Receptor, there are two receptor, alpha receptor and beta receptor. So beta 1 receptor is involved into your heart, and for muscarinic receptor there is M2 receptor which is involved into your heart. So releases the acetylcholine and lowers heart rate and stroke volume. So by which way they are controlling the heart rate and our cardiac output. By sympathetic innervation, it releases the norepinephrine. So whenever we are having low blood pressure, so due to which the signal goes to your brain, to your medulla oblongata, and due to which they are giving the signal to your respective part of your heart, and due to which there are various centers which we will see in next slide. So due to which they are releasing that noradrenaline, and due to which the heart rate and your blood pressure can be increased. Now raises heart rate and stroke volume, due to which heart rate can be increases and stroke volume also going to be increased. Now here, by the neuronal innervation, how it affects, that we will see here. Now there are two types of receptor, baroreceptor and chemoreceptor. Now baroreceptor, that one should know, there are two sides of baroreceptor, they are available into our heart. One, they are available at your carotid sinus, the blood vessel which the artery which provide blood to your brain. So there is a center here, it is center for your that carotid sinus. And another is at aorta. So at the aortic reflex, it is a second sensor. These are sensors for baroreceptor. They are signalizing the blood pressure and they are giving that signal to your cardiovascular center. Where is that cardiovascular center? It is at the medulla oblongata. It is a part which regulates our cardiac activity. So they can be signalized from here, signal can be go here, and immediately they will take the action, and here they will take the action and they will give order immediately through the motor neuron, and they can be joined by the parasympathetic as well as the sympathetic. This is the sympathetic and this is the parasympathetic. So by both the types of neuron, they has been attached and they are regulating according to the inputs which they are getting from the baroreceptor and chemoreceptors. Okay, so here try to understand. So whenever we are having the high blood pressure, the parasympathetic, the neuron is going to be activate, and along with the vagus nerve, this vagus nerve is along with the vagus nerve, they will decrease your blood pressure, they will decrease your blood volume. And wherever there is the signal that blood pressure has been declined, so immediately signal goes here to the center, and it immediately they will give order to your sympathetic division here, and from this ganglia they will release the noradrenaline, and due to which they will give order to your this atria, and due to which they will immediately increase your blood pressure by releasing the noradrenaline and by increasing the blood volume and by increasing the cardiac output, and also they are increasing the peripheral resistance, and they are decreasing the constriction. They are doing the constriction of your blood vessels for increasing blood pressure. Try to understand. It is very easy, not too much difficult. So in this fashion the autonomic innervation occurs into your heart. If you can't understand, please call me and ask me by WhatsApp also if you can't understand this concept. It is very easy concepts. Now hormonal effects on cardiac outputs. Adrenal medulla hormones, for example epinephrine and norepinephrine, they are also called as adrenaline and noradrenaline. So these hormones are responsible for increased heart rate as well as force of contractions. So heart rate and stroke volume can be increased by this. Other hormones that increases the output, for example thyroid hormone, so they are also increasing your cardiac output. Glucagon, they are also increasing your heart rate and force of contractions. Renin, angiotensin, aldosterone system, this system you should know. So what is this? Renin can be released from the kidney, from the juxtaglomerulus apparatus, from the macula densa cells. Renin will release, and that renin release, after that it will enhance the secretion of angiotensin 1, and angiotensin 1 is inactive form. So due to the angiotensin converting enzyme which convert angiotensin 1 to angiotensin 2, and once the angiotensin 2 has been developed, so it will from the liver, so what it will do, that angiotensin 2 is responsible for increase your heart rate, increase your blood volume, and also at the same time it will also enhance the stimulation of aldosterol from the kidney. And what is the role of aldosterol? Aldosterol will regain the sodium ions. The aldosterol will reabsorb the sodium ion from the blood, and due to which blood volume can be increased. Along with the sodium ions, and due to which blood volume increase, peripheral resistance will increase, and the cardiac output will increase, and final effect is blood pressure is going to be increased. So final effect is blood pressure can be increased. So it is called renin angiotensin aldosterol pathway or system. So it is a large pathway. It is not in the syllabus right now, but you should know it is included into the hormones, how this pathway is affecting on your blood pressure. They are increasing your blood pressure. Next is antidiuretic hormone. It is antidiuretic hormone. It occurs in the kidney, in your principal cells of your kidney, at the last part of your DCT and collecting duct, where you will find this antidiuretic hormone will release. And what is their role? They are having role to increase the absorption of sodium ions, increase the absorption of blood, and increase the blood volume, and due to which they are increasing the blood pressure. Same effect which can be produced by the aldosterol, antidiuretic hormone. What is another word for antidiuretic hormone? Vasopressin is another word for antidiuretic hormone. And this antidiuretic hormone can be released from which part of your brain? From the posterior pituitary gland it can be released. Now next is atrial natriuretic peptide. So this is having the negative effect. So it is a protein, it is a peptide which can be released from your atria, right atria especially. And what is the role? They are decreasing your blood pressure. So they are having role to decrease your blood pressure. Whenever they will activate, they will start to decrease your blood pressure. That's why the arrow is here. It is decreasing your blood pressure. Try to understand. Now CNS control of heart. Basic control in medulla oblongata. As we know, medulla oblongata is having the main role into your cardiovascular system. They are controlling your cardiovascular system. So cardioacceleratory center is there, which accelerates your heart, and activation of sympathetic neurons, which is responsible for your cardiac system, and cardio inhibitory center. So it governing the parasympathetic neurons. So both these systems are controlled, they are go one by one and they are balanced to one by another. So next is baroreceptor and chemoreceptor. Now here baroreceptor, when I will tell you, you will come to know the meaning of this both. Baroreceptor, baro means pressure and receptors. So the receptors are available at two parts of your heart, as I told already. One at near the carotid cyanosis. So carotid sinus, that one sensor is there, and another is available at your aorta reflex and carotid sinus reflex. So at both the area these baroreceptors are available, and they are sensitizing, the sensory neurons are available, and they are giving the signals to your control center, and due to which, and these baroreceptors are connected with your control center, and these control centers are connected with your acceleratory as well as the inhibitory center by autonomic nervous system. So whenever you are getting the signal that we are having decreased heart rate, so in that condition they will activate the acceleratory sympathetic nervous system, due to which it releases the noradrenaline and it will increase the blood pressure. And whenever baroreceptor gives the signal that there is increase in your blood pressure, so they will immediately give signals to your inhibitory center, and they will stimulate the parasympathetic neurons. So along with the vagus nerve, this parasympathetic neuron along with the vagus nerve, they will activate and they will decrease the blood pressure. And this sympathetic nervous system along with the glossopharyngeal nerves, so they will activate and they will work their functions. So two types of receptors are there. One is carotid sinus and another is aortic sinus. There are chemoreceptors are available. So chemoreceptors means various chemicals, various electrolytes which are producing your blood, and blood contains various electrolytes. So their composition reflects increase and decrease in your blood pressure. They are also controlled by these chemoreceptors. Now there are various electrolytes, for example sodium ions, for example oxygen, for example CO2, for example H+. So whenever there is decrease into your oxygen level, it is producing the condition like hypoxia. When there is increase into the concentration of CO2, it will produce the condition like hypercapnia. And when there is increase into the concentration of H+ ion, so it will produces the condition like acidosis. So it reflects the chemoreceptors. So these chemoreceptors are immediately they are joined by that carotid sinus and the aortic, carotid sinus body and aortic body. So they are going along with them. So baroreceptors and chemoreceptors are attached to with both the receptors, with both the same signaling neurons, same signaling sensory neurons. So these baroreceptor and chemoreceptors are controlling your blood pressure. Other inputs are higher centers. Various higher centers are there. They will increase and decrease your blood pressures. And blood pressure centers, they are also increasing and decreasing your centers, oxygen, carbon dioxide, and other sensors. Now cardiac output is the amount of blood pumped by the left ventricle each minute. It is adjusted moment to moment by the ANS by circulating hormones changing in the blood volume and the venous return. A healthy person can increase cardiac output by 3-fold to 5-fold. So here I have concluded my chapter. If you have any queries, you can ask me after this lecture. Bye.